Today's episode is sponsored by Select Savory Snacks. Are you having a hard time finding clean, healthy, sugar-free meat snacks, such as beef jerky and beef sticks? Well, look no further. Select Savory Snacks offers you clean, healthy, sugar-free meat snacks with their original biltong, spicy biltong, and Drovor's meat sticks to help you on your weight loss journey so that you can lose weight, get healthy, and feel amazing. Check them out today at selectsavory.com and use coupon code PODCAST to receive 15% off your first order. Come savor the flavor. Now, back to the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome again to the Simple Low Carb Lifestyle Podcast. Today we are joined by the one and only Danny Vega. How are you doing today, Danny?
Good to be here, brother. I'm so happy for you, man. I always get so happy when my friends start a podcast. You know, it's so much fun. You learn so much, and like the world that we live in, like it's crazy. I think everybody says yes because everybody has something that they want to share with people. Whether it's a product. My wife, by the way, is fixing my lighting, and I love it. She's like my personal assistant right now.
Is she also going to powder your face too?
My love, are you going to give me some makeup? Is a little bit of makeup going on? I wouldn't even know. I wouldn't even know how to do that. We were on NBC, dude, or was it CBS? We were on one of these low stations, and our faces were so greasy. They should have told us, put some powder or something. But yeah, so I'm just really happy for you, man. And you know, it's so easy. Everybody always has something to share with people, whether it's a program, a course, a book. And so, I mean, I always say yes to people. I mean, especially if it's a friend, just because, you know, I want to meet more audiences. I want to meet more people. I want to have more of an impact. So,
yep. And that was the idea behind the podcast. I mean, a lot of people, you know, hence the name, Simple Low Carb Lifestyle. They get caught up in all of this. It's like, it's not that hard, folks. You know, eating basically, you know, real simple, real foods, real whole foods, and you'll be fine. And I want to help people do that. That's the whole idea behind it. And that's one of the reasons for bringing you in today. So let's start with, you know, your background. I mean, a lot of people are going to look at you and say, well, you don't need to eat keto. Although, as you mentioned today, you actually did some before and after pictures, realizing that, hey, wait a minute, I have slimmed down, for lack of a better word. So let's, how did you get to keto, and what brought you here, and we'll go from there.
Dude, I just had this idea in my head that I wanted to share, this analogy, because you brought up the whole thing, like, you know, well, he doesn't need to do keto. And it's like, I used to be a medical device rep, and one of the products that I used to have was the product that everybody would call upon me for the really hard cases. You know, like it was a hysteroscopic product. And so you imagine, like, as everything, you know, women are very different. You know, we're bio-individuality, and you have uterus that's different shapes. You know, you have some that have horns in them, you have some that are big, you have some that are small. And so the procedure that I would be a part of, you know, this product would always be good for like the problem cases, right?
Yep.
And you know, I would be called by doctors, and they'd be like, hey man, you know, I tried this with the other product and it didn't work. So, or this is gonna be my third attempt to try to do this. And so I called you, and like, I'm great, I'm happy. Thank you for calling on me for this problem. But like, if something's good that for the hard cases, why wouldn't it be good for the easy cases? And so like, when someone tells me, like, you know, oh, you know, he doesn't need to do keto, it's like, I don't like the word don't need this or don't need that, because, you know, we don't need a lot of things. Like, to survive, you know, we need some water, a little bit of sustenance to keep our vital organs, you know, our vital processes going. But like, you know, if you look at a diet like the ketogenic diet and carnivore, you know, it's optimizing you, you know, and so you know, who I am, I've been an athlete my whole life. I've been obsessed with, you know, nutrition and training my whole life. And, you know, even when I was a little kid, you know, I would go to after school care, and the guy who, you know, my after school care teacher was this big black dude, bodybuilder guy.
Mm-hmm.
And all the kids would be like playing in the playground. And I would literally be with him looking at muscle magazines and doing pull-ups with him, like, and just idolizing him, you know? And that's just how I've always been with all this stuff. And so like, my goal in high school was to play college football. I got to play college football at Columbia University.
Yep.
And, went to University of Florida to get my master's. I really wanted to continue and be a strength and conditioning coach. And I was blessed to find a job at VCU, and we did really well there. And then, obviously I always mention this because it's like, you have to understand the full picture. Is like my parents came from a different country. They couldn't take anything with them.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't empty out your bank account. There was no security for anything. You literally had to leave with nothing, and they get to this country. My dad doesn't graduate high school because he's got to go sell shoes to make money. My mom doesn't go to college. Here's their son, goes to an Ivy League school and gets his master's to be a coach, And so they're like, I was always very independent, but like, I did finally realize that the money wasn't the only reason why I left strength and conditioning. It was also because I started to learn that it's a way of life, and it's if you embrace that and love that, it was awesome for me. But I knew that I wasn't always going to be single, and so that's why I left and I came back to Miami where I grew up, and eventually found a job in pharma sales, and then went over to medical device. And what really got me back into this sphere was the ketogenic diet. It's funny because like after college, I kind of was like sick of like the structured lifting, and I was just kind of doing my own thing for a few years until CrossFit. And it's funny because CrossFit is a very metabolically oriented exercise, but it got me back into lifting. And that's what keto did for nutrition for me. Like getting back into keto or starting the ketogenic diet is what got me into this obsession with nutrition again. And so for the past 4 years now, I started on June the 12th, 2016. And then I switched over to carnivore on August the 7th, 2017. And ever since then, most of the time I'm either looking at, performance benefits or things like that. But then the last, 2 years or so since we started Fat Fueled Family, like you, I share what we do with the kids. You and I are very similar in that regard, that we like to share, because like your show is all about like, look, this is simple. The kids like it, and it's easy, and it's not going to be pulling teeth. You are going to have to get over that first phase of like, what do you mean I can't have Cheetos? Like that's, that's just how it goes sometimes.
Well, I had the benefit of, even though I wasn't always living it, when our first Daniel was born, our oldest, I told my wife, they're not eating the way I ate growing up. They are going to eat a low carb. So from day one, awesome. I didn't have to convert them out of junk food. Now, there will be occasions where a birthday party, well, everyone else is having cake. So quite literally, okay, they got a 1-inch square of cake. That they had cake. They were happy. Now, of course, that was on top of the 3 slices of watermelon that they ate. But okay, they did it what everybody else did, and off they went. They don't know any different. It's hilarious. Great, my youngest is always sugar makes you fat. Yes, it does. Fat doesn't. No, it doesn't. And
how old is he?
He's 5.5.
That's awesome. So I love that.
He is literally a mini me. Oh no, he wasn't at you. You probably didn't meet him at KetoCon last year. But yeah, he looks like me, just short. But
awesome.
It's great because, like you've already said, that it's not just for weight loss. It is for health. It's for endurance and in your strength training and so forth. It's also for longevity. That's really, for myself, I started off because I want to lose weight. Now, while I want to lose more weight, if I don't lose any more weight, I'm happy because I know it's going to help with my longevity.
Yes.
So complete change of focus on my end. Now, so you've actually been at it not much longer than I have. I started in late 2017.
Awesome.
Finally making it full-time for myself. I've done it off and on in my adult life, but finally got to it. So that's it. I'm done. I got to do this for my wife and my kids. And then finally for myself. So now you said, I know you started off with keto and you went to carnivore. What made you switch from one to the other?
Once I started the ketogenic diet, like I said, since my love for nutrition came back, I wanted to make sure I was hitting all the bases. Like I wanted to make sure that I was not only, because I was already super lean, I had just cut down, and because I was getting out of shape power lifter, getting injured, and so I had already lost like 20 pounds to get lean. And then when I started the ketogenic diet, I got that quality of life piece of it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Now I just lost my train of thought. What was the question again? I'm so sorry, man.
Why'd you go from keto to carnivore?
Oh yeah. So keto to carnivore. So I was always focused on, okay, I guess I got to have, and I got comfortable eating salads. I like the salads, every now and then I'll still like a salad. I just actually I was with Jamie Seaman, Dr. Fit and Fabulous, and Logan Delgado, and we were all at Austin, and we all were at a steakhouse, and Logan got a wedge salad, and I didn't order one. And when it showed up, I was like, dang, that looks good. And so Jamie and I were like, we got a wedge salad, we're going to get a salad every now and then. But like, so then when my first kind of intro into carnivore was when Brian had Amber O'Hearn on his podcast. And like, I think right around the same time he had Georgia Eid right after. I know because, we were headed to Puerto Rico in the first week of August, and I had already been doing it for like 3-4 days, and I was feeling even better. And I told Maura, just listen to these podcasts on the plane. And so why did I switch from keto to carnivore? I think it blew my mind when I realized that it was possible that I probably didn't need to eat all those vegetables to be optimally healthy,
Yeah.
And, my favorite food my whole life has been meat. I've always, when I was younger, it was barbecue and it was burgers with buns on them, but the meat was still the star of the show. You know what I mean? So I loved it. And so Brian, after those 2 episodes, we were talking and he said, you know what, I think I want to do an experiment. And I said, what's that? And he said, well, I think I just want to eat beef and salmon this month. And I was like, I'll join in on that. Let's talk. What are the parameters? Like, can I have my coffee with my fat? And then, so we created every, because I wanted to make sure I was doing exactly what he was doing and envisioning what he was envisioning.
Yep.
And so anything that came from a cow, whether it be organs or, any cut, I would have, and then I would have salmon. And man, like that month, I had just finished up. Robert had gotten me down to 6.5% body fat on the DEXA. I was freaking shredded.
Yeah.
But I was like, it's interesting because I had just come off a cut when I went to keto, and I had to up my calories with the ketogenic diet for the first month, like up to 700 calories more, because I was like hemorrhaging weight. I couldn't. And then the same thing
some of us wish we had.
And listen, it doesn't happen like that always. I feel like it's only like in those transitions that something like that happens. But yeah, so I switched over. I felt amazing. And then I got back into rowing because I had done rowing as a CrossFitter and I was always good at it. And I remember, man, because we had Dr. Baker on the podcast like before he really blew up. Like we had him.
Right.
Someone said, I mentioned the thing, and someone said on Instagram, you should check out Dr. Sean Baker. I had nobody knew who he was. I didn't know who he was. And I go on this guy and I'm like, looking, I'm like, this guy's a freaking beast. So we had him on the podcast, and then we had him on the podcast the next January of 2018, and that was after Joe Rogan. So he had already had like some clout, but when I switched to carnivore, man, like within a month, I got an all-time lifetime PR in the rower. And I remember texting him and I was like, look at this. I was like, I got a sub 120, 500. I got 119.9. Now, granted, his best time is either like 112 or 113, which is absurd.
He's an animal, that's for sure.
World record status, but he goes, once you hit sub 20, he texted me back. He's like, once you hit sub 20, you're with the big boys. And I was just so proud of that. And I have carnivore to thank for that. I felt cleaner. I felt like I did have like the issues, the initial, poop issues that everyone talks about. But after like, and if I might have known back then, I might have played with some ox bile, just some bile salts to do stuff, and maybe even a little bit of acid. I don't know. I would have learned a little bit more and fix that, or cut out the extra fat, because I was still back then adding tons of butter on my steaks, just happier than ever. But man, it was amazing. And then of course there's always something experimenting going on, but Dr. Baker just had me on his podcast and I was like, man,
Okay.
you know, I'm getting to that point where I'm like, I keep going away and then their carnivore is just waiting for me with open arms every time. Like I do like to eat more carbs in the summer. I just feel like with everything that I do, like I'll be walking to the gym, to and from the gym, sometimes twice. Sometimes I'm having like 33,000 steps in a day. I will cramp, you know what I mean? So I need to hit that hard. Plus I have my genetics that one of my SNPs makes me a little bit more prone to cramping. But overall, man, let me tell you, the baseline is actually, it's either carnivore or meat and bricks. Like it's literally meat and keto bricks. I mean, I'm just happier than ever. I maintain my weight. I feel great. It's just, you don't have to worry about like, it's not complicated at all. You know, you don't have to track. That's why I did it. And that's why I maintain carnivore way more than keto. Like I'll be keto, let's say 4 months of the year and carnivore 8 months of the year.
Right, because I know you recently put on your social media that, hey, that you actually started your carnivore earlier than you were planning on because it's like, that's it. I just need to go back. I mean, you just feel, it's amazing, even myself, how much better you feel. I noticed that when I started adding some of the vegetables and stuff back in, the oxalates get to me. In my case, it's like I can tell I'll start getting a rash and it's like, okay, I need to back off. And then, like you said, also the simplicity. I know a lot of people go, yeah, but it's boring. Well, not to me. Of course, I've got 60 different seasonings and spices sitting over here on the shelf.
Oh,
I can
man, I wish I could
stuff.
see it. You got the blue screen going right now, so I can't see it.
We'll have to fix that for later. So, it's like, all you got to do is season your meat.
By the way.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I last night we had the boys, I made them some ranch chicken thighs. It was an eat to evolve meal. So it's already pre-seasoned, but when you take that meal and you throw it on the skillet and you throw some of that select savory seasonings ranch seasoning on top of it.
Yep.
I got goosebumps. It's freaking delicious because they never finish it. And I get to
get the leftovers.
Yeah. So go on. I'm sorry.
Well, back to seasoning. The turkey liver you had was seasoned with my chop house.
Oh yes, it was.
And so my opinion is the chop house is why the liver was so sweet.
It brought it out. Yeah, it brought out the. I could see that, dude. Like, I mean, they just bugged me yesterday. The boys about. They're like, we saw this cookie dough, this edible cookie dough recipe, and we really want to make it. And I was like, you know what? These kids are adorable. They're angels. Let's go. We go to the Walmart. We pick up the ingredients. I keto-fied it for them. And they absolutely loved it. And I don't even know why I brought that up, but I think it was because, golly, this is true. This COVID does affect your brain. By the way, for everybody listening, I have COVID-19. I'm in self-isolation. I'm in a bunker right now.
And Danny are social distancing by a couple of states, so I'm not gonna catch it. So we're okay.
Yeah. But yeah, they just, I don't know why I brought that up. It was for a reason. Because you put the salt, you put a little pinch of salt and it brings out the sweetness.
Yep.
So, yeah, man. Yeah. And the other thing that I would recommend to people that are saying, it's too boring. What makes it super easy when we go on vacations, especially nowadays, what we're involved with our business and how, a lot of the trips that we take is all inclusive. And like, we always lose weight on vacation, and it's because we have meat buffets. Yes. And so ever since coming back to carnivore, I make a real big effort to have several pieces of meat on my plate, just like they say, eat the rainbow. Like today I'm having pork belly, a little bit of gator. And what else am I having? Pork belly, gator, keto brick for dessert, but I'm having some manchego cheese, which my favorite cheese is manchego. It's amazing. But yeah, if you put lots of it and the kids, if you put lots of options, like, some ground beef, maybe some beef sausage, a little bit of steak, something like that. And they will pick, or maybe some chicken thigh, or maybe if they like fish, Dean loves salmon. So I'm always making a little bit of salmon. They will eat it. And they will freaking, like Desmond today decided that he goes, I want to try sardines. I was like, I don't know what's this going to, he's never liked fish. So I open up a can of Wild Planet I see him, and he eats it and he likes it, and I'm like thinking maybe he's doing that thing where he's trying to
He's
impress
acting like
me.
he likes it.
Yeah, like he does that so often. Hopefully he does that less and less as he learns that I don't care. I love him no matter what. But I go back out because I come into the office and I go back out later, and I was like, hey, did you finish those? He's like, yeah, I ate them all. I want to eat more of that. I was
nice.
Like, dude, that's omega-3. That's freaking brain food right there, man.
Yep. Your kids are going to rule the world just like mine.
Yes, together. Let's go.
Oh, I was going to go somewhere with that. Now it's my turn to forget. But yeah, my oldest Daniel was sick, and this weekend, and he said, "Can't go to the neighbor kid's birthday party." Of course, he's not happy about that. So what do you want for supper? Burgers, hot dogs, and pizza. I said, well, that ain't going to happen. He's like, well, if you make the pizza and to put the hot dogs on the pizza. So I made pizza, put hot dogs on it.
Nice. So you had a ground beef crust?
Yep. I just cooked ground beef and sausage, and I just mashed it into a pan, baked it, pulled it out, topped it, and I cooked up the hot dogs in a pan, threw it back in the oven with some cheese and pepperoni, and actually I just finished some of it because I OMADed it today, and I'm like, it's 4:00. I'm eating right now before dinner tonight. But they, they'll hit the meat before they hit the veggies. Every single time. That's
same.
They understand it tastes great and they feel great. It's amazing to see. A lot of people like, oh, your kids need carbs for energy, and I've said this more than once to people I know. I'm like, my kids, right? Yeah, they don't need carbs, do they?
Yeah.
No.
Actually, they're
crazy.
Worse. They will run circles. Our kids will run circles around all these other kids. I don't know where it was, but recently I saw someone was talking about how active my kids are, and how weird it is that whatever it was that we were doing, I forgot. It was very, very active, and it was like there was never a complaint. There was never anything. And my kids, a lot of the time, because I do the homeschooling on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're the ones asking me to work out. They're the ones saying, I want to do a workout. And so some of these, someone said, your kids are so active. And I said, well, I mean, first of all, they're not on a blood sugar roller coaster, and interestingly, like sometimes they're in the mood for vegetables. Like they literally tell me things like, go get me this, go get me some asparagus, and I'll go get it and we're always laughing because it's like, okay, if you want to get your kids to eat vegetables, just don't feed them any vegetables and they'll do it. But and then sometimes Desmond, my little paleo kid, man, he'll take like a bunch of mushrooms and just at like 8:00 at night after dinner, he'll just saute mushrooms and butter and he'll just have a bowl of mushrooms. And it's like,
can't argue with that.
Yeah. Like these kids, they eat real food. And like I forgot the other thing too, like Desmond said, yesterday we put in, cause we don't use Swerve. It gives me gas and I don't like it. So we put some brown sugar in the cookie recipe, but it's very, very little. And he's like, man, that was so sweet. And I was like, well, think about this. It's actually been proven in the literature. Like, they took babies and they gave them sugar water, and they give different groups of kids like more power, like more potent sugar water than the others. And this has been repeated in several different age groups and populations. Like the more sugar you give someone, the more they need to say, oh, this is sweet. It literally desensitizes them right away. So imagine the kids, if you give them, if they're eating Doritos and food science food, which is so funny that food scientists are always defending food science. It's like, well, there's probably a little bit of a conflict of interest there, but anyways, they just taste these subtle flavors and all these different flavors that those other kids would be like, ew, or even like a keto dessert. The other kids would be like, this isn't even sweet, So this is like setting them up for life, man. Like think about this, the work that you and I are putting in, and people who are, feeding their kids a paleo diet, a ketogenic diet, a real whole food diet, the habits. Think about how hard it was for you to cut your habits, and for the guy that you had on the podcast who was obese actually when he was a kid. Like that's a lot to undo. That's a lot of brain things that are really deep in those neurons, like imprinted. And so I think the opposite is true for our kids. Like they're not gonna, I mean, they're gonna do the occasional stupid thing, and they're gonna feel like crap, and they're gonna know
they'll pay for it.
Yeah, and they know that they can switch it around in a second if they just go back to what works.
Yep. I know you've had that conversation with your boys more than once. It's like, you can have it, and then the next day or even later in the day, I don't feel good. Well, why don't you feel good? I ate that.
Yeah, I don't even have to do it anymore, man. They're
know.
like trigger happy. They're like Dean will say, like, I don't feel good, Papi. And he's like, I think it was the candy. I'm like, Papi, you had that like 2 weeks ago. It was like one candy, and it was like 2 weeks ago. It's probably not the candy this time, but
which is great. And actually, my one of the things I had to give up was root beer. That was always my.
Oh, that's funny.
But we'll get an occasional diet root beer, and one of the brands, you know, my kids tried it and they're like, "Oh, that's too sweet." It was diet.
Was it the Zevia root beer?
No, it was. I can picture it, but
like A&W,
like Frosty, or it's more of they come in the 4-pack of bottles. So kind of like
gotcha.
IBC. It's not IBC, but it comes in a little pack like that. Either Frosty or Dad's, and it was seasoned with sweetened with Splenda, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah,
and sweet. He was like, "Oh, it's just way too sweet," and I chuckle because it's like, good, you know, because when they have something that is loaded with sugar, that's going to be the response, because their bodies are used to just real food. I mean, I can still remember the first time a couple of years ago when I don't remember the vegetable, but it was like a broccoli or something like that. I started eating, and I'm like, this tastes sweet.
Did somebody throw sugar on my broccoli?
Yeah, it's like, wait, how come broccoli and cauliflower? It is sweet, because my taste buds change as a result of it. I mean, it's amazing how much of a difference it makes. And like you said, that is a struggle switching. It took me, let's see here, 5, 6, 7 different times of, all right, I'm doing it, and then I'd fall off and be off for a while. All right, I'm going to do it again. And so I feel, I mean, I've lost 90 pounds. I put 50 of that back on, and now I'm down another 40 from that high, I think. Nice. So yeah, I understand that roller coaster, and it's nice to be able to do what we can for our kids so they don't have to deal with it. I don't want my kids to deal with what I dealt with. That's for sure. Now, one of the misconceptions, you can't exercise and get stronger eating a keto or a carnivore diet. I mean, wait a minute. Look at you. Oh yeah, look at you. So, what is your training? I know it's changed over the years. What's your training like now? And how is that? Yeah, how has that changed over the years since you started keto back in 2016?
You know, man, one of the biggest things that I notice is that it has nothing independent of keto. You know, my age, and I'm not gonna, you know, I'm young. I'm 39. You know, but still, like my body, because of what I've done, I played on AstroTurf, man, and that stuff was terrible. Like I still
knees apart.
Yeah, and I got scars all over my hands, and I used to wear Under Armour, like, and I, you know, and so like, and then of course powerlifting injuries, and just beat up, you know, and so I don't have what I used to have as far as like, I don't have the high end power. And again, I'm going to get into keto, but I'm just talking about setting the stage for like the fact that I'm older, and like looking back even at 2017, which I had already been a year keto, definitely fat adapted, definitely like, you know, into carnivore. And I'm looking at those workouts and I'm remembering those workouts because I used to do sometimes 3 exercises, supersetted, and like the volume was crazy, and I can't do that. But like one of the things that has helped me so much is that in these last 2 years, I've really been focusing on proper execution. And so I've been able to cut my volume, and then I've still been able to put on muscle, which is amazing. Like last January, not this January, but it might have been this January. Yeah. Ben, one of my best friends, Ben Pekolsky, he, you know, he had to leave, he always does seminars in January, and he comes back and he's like, man, you look great, you know? And I was like, man, I promise you, like I'm doing literally like 20 total sets a day. That's literally 5 exercises, 4 sets each. And the execution's there. So that's just, I wanted to caveat that because that's one of the things that I think as people get older, there's a saying, I won't say it because it's not really appropriate as far, it's just a macho type of saying. It's like when you're younger, you train with one part of your body. And when you're older, you train with this part of your body.
Yep.
And so, you know, that's what I've learned. Now, as far as ketogenic dieting, like, and carnivore and muscle, here's the thing, like my body never changed. Like I was lean when in June of 2016, and you know, I took the first week off of training when I switched to keto because I just happened to be very busy with work that week, and I was like, you know what, I'm switching my diet completely. I might as well do this anyways. And I remember to this day, I'm still very happy because I was very productive that week. But like the next week, I had a deload week planned. That the week before I had a deload week. I said, you know what, I'm just going to push that to next week. And so now we're talking about like kind of ramping up. And then week 3 now is when my first real full workout, which is still not like going all the way, because I'm also smaller than I was. You know, I was leaner. I had just lost like 25 pounds. And, you know, I noticed, and I kind of liked it at the time because I've never been that, not since middle school have I been, I guess middle school, early high school, have I been that skinny guy. Right. You know, and I kind of like the idea of looking skinnier for some reason. You know, when you're big, when you're small, you want to be big. When you're big, you want to be small.
Small, yeah.
Yeah. And so I had lost all my vascularity. My muscles looked just more wiry and tight instead of like circular bulky. And, you know, round and bulgy. Yep. Yeah. And that was just, honestly, that was just the glycogen depletion. You know, my glycogen had been depleted, and that's what got me into ketosis in the first place, which was amazing. But literally within 3 months, those veins came back, those pumps came back. Yep. And like at this point, we're talking about 4 years later, and I'm never really like 2019. I didn't go try to put on muscle. I think the only year that I've actually actively tried to put on muscle was the summer of 2018. And that was because we were training with our friend, Derek Lunsford, who, you know, last 2 years has gotten second place in the Olympia, you know, Mr. Olympia in the 212 division, not the open, but I prefer the 212 anyways. I like their physiques better. And so I'm in there with these guys, we're training hard, and I put on some muscle, and I didn't even gain that much weight. And so like at this point, 4 years later, man, there's nothing anybody could tell me. Like I look as good as I've looked, you know, I do. As we get older, like our bodies start to change a little bit, especially if you're vain like me and you're always looking at yourself in the mirror, you know, you start to see a few things here and there, but I'm like looking at myself, I'm like, I'm the most well-rounded I've ever been. I've been able to, I can do the most I've been able to do, like walk long distances. I just rode 50,000 meters again for the second time. You know, I'm still strong. I can do body weight stuff. I'm healthy. Yeah. There's just no comparison. And then for the population that you're hopefully reaching out to with the show, who wants just to keep it simple, you know, I would venture to guess that a lot of them are trying to get their health back on. They've probably been inconsistent with lifting in the first place. So I could almost guarantee that a lot of these people, they go switch to a ketogenic diet. Not only are they going to lose the body fat, but they're going to put on the most muscle they've ever put on, because they're going to feel good. And that's one thing Dr. Baker was telling me, because I was like, it was like sitting on the couch with him, like my therapist. And I was like telling him, I was like, dude, I keep on doing this thing, man. Like I should have paid attention to my body. Like I would have just done fine if I would have just done like a month of carbs and then after just cut it off, you know. And when I do carbs, it's not like, you know, I'm doing literally like I'm doing low carbs. So I'm maybe having like, you know, 70 to 100 grams, and then maybe like a carb up day of like 250, 300, which is a lot. But for me, I can wake up the next morning in ketosis, which is crazy. It no longer gets, it's not about the aesthetic part of it. It's the fact that like all of a sudden my meniscus that's torn in my left knee, I never decided to get, I did get repaired my right knee, but this left knee, I never got it. I used to, like, once I switched to keto, it would only hurt if I went above 500 pounds on a squat. And I'm at this point, I'm like, I'm not going to go above that 500 pounds anymore. And I was starting to feel that again. And I started to feel like I'm getting tendonitis in my elbow. And he's like, wait till you're 50. He's like, wait till you're after 50. He's like, that's the thing. Like, maybe carbs do provide a benefit. And maybe if you're young and very healthy and you're
Mm-hmm.
metabolically healthy, you can feel those changes. But when the downside of the carbs starts affecting your motivation to go to the gym because you're like, I feel bad, I don't feel good, keto's going to win every time. It's a tortoise in the hare. Maybe your carb day is a flash in the pan, but overall, you're not going to be as good as you are just sticking to eating high fat, which is going to be great for your hormones. It's an energy source, just like carbs are, and it is going to be perfectly fine once you're fat adapted. And high protein, which I love where this keto community has gone in the last 2-3 years, where it's like a lot more accepting of high protein. I think some of the influences early on were saying, they were saying like, don't eat too much protein, and I get that, especially for metabolically people with issues, but it turns out a lot of the time, even for them, it's going to be better because they're going to be more satiated, and they're going to look. It doesn't matter what diet you look at. Every single research paper will show you that a high protein diet is going to lead to better satiety. It's going to lead to less overeating. So you get the amino acids. You think about it physiologically. The body knows like what it's getting in amino acids. It knows that, the stretch that the stomach is doing. It knows, the hunger hormones and all that. And so if you're giving it protein, your body's like, okay, I got some amino acids, you're getting some fat and all that. And what do you think it's going to happen? Mauda always jokes about this. What do you think is going to happen is like, you give it, cereal. It's just going to be like, wrong answer. Try again in an hour, Well,
and that's why people that are, a high carb diet, that's why they're always hungry. It's the body saying, I'm not getting the nutrients that I need, feed me. And you're not feeding your body when you're eating junk food. Trust me, I know. Been there, done that. It's like, man, the old saying goes, I just went to a Chinese buffet an hour ago and I could go back and eat it all over again.
Yeah, it's starvation in the face of plenty. Like, it's crazy.
It's, even with my dad, when he finally started doing low carb, I'm like, look, you'll get to the point you don't want breakfast. That'll never happen. And, and then it was 6-8 months later, he's like, I'm going till noon, 2 o'clock, before, other than coffee. And I'm like, told you so. And since then, I think he's changed. He actually has a breakfast and then he has dinner, and he found that works best for him.
Yeah, I do that sometimes as well, but it's like maybe it's 1 out of every 10 days where I wake up and I'm like, you know what? Today I'm gonna have a big old eggs and sausage and throw some cheese on there, bacon. Yep.
Or that's dinner some days here too.
Yes, what's for dinner? I love breakfast for dinner, dude.
Well, we didn't get anything out, and there's 6 dozen eggs in the fridge, so let's get at it. Oh, it makes it so much easier. So but that's one of the misconceptions that we do have to discuss, is that you in your case, you can't maintain. You're going to lose muscle mass eating this way, and yet, I'm more defined. That's not saying much for me, but there's actually muscle definition there. From what basic body weight training I've been doing, starting with the meat and bricks earlier in January this year.
Yeah,
it's like
that was fun.
It's a load of fun. Side note: I got my wife mad at me. I ordered a month's supply of peanut butter cup bricks.
Dude, I did that like a month or so, probably 2-3 months ago as well. She didn't get mad, but I gotta hide them, man. I literally was putting them in my sock drawer.
Actually, my wife's not the problem. Thank you. There you go. My kids are like, are those? No, they're not yours. They're for my lunch.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, like, when they ask me what it is, they know what it is.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is poop.
No, it's not, Dad.
Yeah, it's poop.
I'm gonna have to try that one of these days. We'll bring up your wife briefly. Something that people don't stop and consider is how vegetables actually can have adverse effects on the body too. I remember the first time I sent you guys a bunch of our spices to give a try, and then it was like a week later I heard you guys on a podcast. I'm like, everything I sent them has something in it she's not supposed to eat.
I can have it.
Yeah, I know.
I was low key having everything. I had to make her rubs, because onion is such an integral part of a rub or a spice or a seasoning, and most of them have onion. Unless it's like a spicy pepper type of thing, it's not, that's usually not going to have onions. But like most seasonings, onion and garlic are like base seasonings,
Yeah, and that's where again, living, eating carnivore, especially for your her case, makes a big difference. It's simple. I don't have to worry about, well, is there something in this that I'm going to wake up tomorrow and, be in pain, or have swelling or anything like that. It's not only the simplicity of the way you eat, but hey, I'm not putting stuff in my body that's going to bother me,
Yep.
which is a great. I know that's why I personally enjoy it so much. Where is it going for that?
Oh, like the hidden dangers of or the concerns. I mean, I can talk about what Maura.
Yeah.
I think if there's a woman listening to this, just look up fat-fueled mom, because you're gonna listen to me and you're gonna be like, oh, he's a big meathead, and just watch my wife. I am blown away. I've known my wife since she was 21 years old. She's what, 30?
Hey, be careful.
Oh,
careful.
Yeah, that's true.
She's still 21.
Yeah. With her, I mean, I think she'll probably be like happy, because I mean, she looks the best she's ever looked. She was a 21-year-old little girl. I mean, she was a woman, but still, like, she was a young, as far as her body goes, the things that she put her body through, because I know, because I was there, was ridiculous, and she would just bounce back. And like, to see my wife, she looks by far the best she's ever looked. Like, she looks amazing. And she's going back to the muscle thing. She's put on the most muscle since switching to a ketogenic diet. Obviously there was a lot of learning as far as like execution goes there too, because she used to bust her butt in the CrossFit days. But I mean, if you're doing 150 wall balls, you're going to get a nice pump in your legs, but you're not going to isolate your glutes the way she does with their workouts now. So, so the things that, for anyone who's just getting started and who's you feel like you're drinking from a fire hose because you're getting hit with so many different things, it's really hard, because a lot of us, we were early adopters, when this whole keto thing started to pick up steam in the 2014, 2015, 2016 was the biggest year, I think. We've been following this diet for a long time. We've been progressing, and we're already on, what you talk, we're on oxalates, we're on, phytic acid, we're on all these different things that people like in their position are not. And so one thing that I would caution against is because I've done it, and I think we all do, is some new finding or something comes out, and all of a sudden we go crazy and we just say, no, and then here's the important takeaway for that. Whenever you hear about something that's possibly could be harmful, understand that your genetics, your epigenetics, which is basically the way your genes, are they turning on, are they turning off? Because you could have terrible genes, but your lifestyle is expressing the good genes. So it's okay if you have quote unquote bad genes, because literally within a day of lifestyle change, you can change the way your genes express themselves. You can turn off the bad ones. But just understand that, like, what I'm about to say with vegetables is what could happen. So it's like, if you get your genetics read and it tells you that you're just a big mess, you got to be like, wait a second, I don't feel like a mess. There's obviously something that's not right here. Maybe there's information that I don't understand. And so with vegetables, first of all, imagine yourself. I always love this analogy, and I forgot where I first heard it, but like, imagine yourself, you're at the beach and you're planted in the ground, like your kids put you in the sand, and the only thing sticking out is your head, right?
Yep.
Then you're in the sand, your only thing, and you can't really defend yourself. So if a kid wants to come up to you and use your head as a soccer ball, like, what the heck are you going to do? And so this is welcome to the life of a plant, And so plants don't have venom. They don't have teeth. They don't have a bark. They don't have markings on them. Sometimes they do. And hopefully the animals are like, oh, hold up. That's that fluorescent pink one. I'm not going to touch that one, but the way plants defend themselves is through chemical warfare, biological warfare. And so like, they literally have, a lot of these plants have different compartments where if the plant were to be crushed together, those compartments would mix together to create, for example, let's just say cyanide or something, you know? And so a critter is either going to be affected in several ways. It's either going to come into contact with it, with its skin or something, and its immune system is going to be like, what's that? And it's going to be itching and scratching, like poison ivy. Or it's going to be something that basically doesn't, it has anti-nutrients like a phytic acid, where you can be eating something that's really healthy and full of minerals that you love, like for instance zinc, that's so important. But you eat some oysters with some tortilla chips, and now you have 20% of the absorption of the zinc. Actually, no, it's not tortilla chips. The black beans is 20% of the absorption of the zinc. The tortilla chips, which blew my mind, actually what happens is it's like zero absorption, and actually over time it goes negative. So eating those
it's actually leaching out of your body if you eat tortilla chips with.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that was an interesting study that Dr. Eid first presented, and I still talk about it to this day. And so you have oxalates, which are these little crystals that if you ever just Google oxalates, you're going to see it. It looks like a Superman Kryptonian like crystal that's like indestructible. And it pretty much is. Like you cannot cook it out. You can't soak it like you would with beans for like phytic acid and for other things. So you have oxalates. Those, look those up, because going back to why these things are important, it's because if something does go wrong, now you can pinpoint where it went, because back in the day, people used to understand that. Now we're like, blah, 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 blah. My doctor knows everything. And then you're going to go into the doctor. He's going to tell you to take this medicine or that medicine. And I wrote you 6 prescriptions. And that's not how it works, because you can honestly treat yourself. And I'm not saying that in a dangerous way that, you know, don't trust doctors, but I'm letting you know right now, person who's starting this diet, hopefully that there's that person right there, that you have a lot more power than you think, and your body and what you eat and your lifestyle is a lot more important than you think. And you may not believe me right now, but just give yourself a little bit of time and you'll see. So just understand that, vegetables, a lot of the times they're high in carbs, like these plant foods are very high in carbs, and it's not even consistent with our whole human race over time. Like we have seasons, and then some places like the northern countries only really have 2 seasons, not 4. And so like, how interesting is it that these Nordic people are the tallest? Like a lot of the time, if you're like, my son is going to be much taller than me. Like Desmond is the size of a 12-year-old. He's 9 years old. He's a monster. So, all these things come together. Anyways, I've been on this vegetable rant for a while. So just understand if you love your vegetables, just treat them the right way, understand how to cook them. Most of these things are not going to be great raw. There's just a lot of issues there, but there's oxalates. There's, what else is there? There's phytic acid. There's, I'm missing a few, man. What do the legumes have? Legumes have, oh my gosh. I forget. But yeah, there's just understand.
There's stuff in them. Well, I mean, a friend of mine who was eating keto, but always had a problem of either, back to some TMI here, was either needed to stay right next to the bathroom, or was so plugged up that it was both extremes. It was never a consistency. And finally said, hey, you need to get a hold of Dr. Wrigley and talk to him. He deals with women, pre and post menopause women. And he's like, you eat salads all the time, don't you? Yep. Stop. The lettuce is causing the problem.
That's what happened with Mauda.
Yep. And sure enough, lettuce is gone. Consistent bowel movements. And would use, would have still a salad, but you spit a little bit of spinach instead. But it was like, that was it. Just get rid of the lettuce, problem solved. And you're like, well, wait a minute. That's one of the healthiest things we can eat. And yet it can still affect your body adversely. And that's where that bio-individuality comes in. You got to experiment with your body. Some people are going to be able to handle more vegetables than others. I can eat them and be fine. But I feel much better when I lean towards, animal products for the most part. And of course, even myself, I got to back off on the dairy because I can inhale that all day and all night. And
that's a big trigger.
That'll
food.
Get to me.
Cheeses and dairy is a trigger food for me. It's not necessarily bad, but if you don't want to overeat, then you got to think of that. Yeah.
So, and I know that's something that I know that now after 2 or 3 years of experimenting and playing. And that's something that, if you're just getting into this, start with the basics.
Yep.
I actually, somebody I was talking to had a great recommendation. Pick a person and follow, or pick a plan and follow it. Kind of like what you said earlier. People are like, oh, something new. No, no, no. Or the opposite. New. Let me go this way. Let me go this
Yeah.
way. And
Yeah, I
okay, well
love it.
then, pick somebody, follow their plan, and give it a good 4-month run. Find out how it works. And if you find out, hey, I'm not feeling right, maybe it's too much fat. Like, you guys have experimented over the years with high fat, high protein, and find out, well, what works best for your body. But you got to give it a good couple of months to find out what's going on. And if it's not working, tweak it. Little
Yeah,
here,
let
little
things
there, and go
shake
from
out a
there.
little bit. By the way, I remembered it was lectins.
Okay.
Then you have protease inhibitors, which are basically things in the plants that are going to mess with your enzymes that help you break down the food.
Okay.
You're going to have defensive toxins, phytic acid. We mentioned that, how that blocks the absorption of minerals. You have glycoalkaloids, goitrogens. Those are things that cause increase in estrogen. Isothiocyanates. Those are like it has in the crucifers, but if you eat a freaking a seed, it's going to have that isothiocyanates, and capsaicinoids like the peppers, salicylates that's in coconut oil. So anyways, lots of that stuff. And it's not all like, you can't just look at it and be like bad, because I personally have never had an issue with, imagine someone who has a problem with oxalates and they don't know about them, and then they're eating blueberries, almonds, almond flour, spinach. Those are all really high oxalate foods, so you just kind of have to know, like, oh, I tried keto, it didn't work. Okay, what'd you eat? Okay, have you ever taken a food sensitivity panel? No. Okay, well, if you haven't, then I would probably guess that you have like an oxalate issue or a lectin issue.
There's one of the ladies I follow on Twitter who her focus is oxalates, and she'll share pictures of
Sally,
the size.
Norton.
Yeah, the size of the oxalates. These people's bodies. They're bigger than the tip of this pen.
Get out, dude. That's
huge.
like, they also have the kidney stones. That's oxalate stones are really big. I had to learn about that when I was we did a merger when one of the companies I was working with, and so women's health merged with urology. So I started to learn about stone management, and so I had to learn about all the different stones, and so that was good to know, because oxalates, I started to learn about them and what they look like,
And it's painful. Well, we're getting up here on an hour, so got a couple of final questions to work on here. Your favorite, I might know the answer to this, your favorite simple low carb meal or food?
Oh man, it's got to be a freaking ribeye. It's got to be ribeye. If it's not ribeye, then it's ground beef. But if I'm picking ground beef, and I'm being completely honest, it's going to be ground beef with cheese on it. I'm not going to just say I love to eat ground beef by itself, because I would be lying. I love ground beef with cheese on it. I
was close. I thought you were going to say your organ burgers.
Oh man, well, I love my organ meat burgers. I love those. We eat them almost every day. But I'm the type of guy, man, and Maura laughs at me like this, because I'm the type of guy, like, I love how they taste, but I don't love how they taste compared to like a ribeye or ground beef. And what happens is, like, when I know something's good for me, it becomes more delicious to me. And Desmond's the same way. And so, but those organ burgers, man, I wish well, whenever you're down here, man, we'll throw it down. We got all the seasonings. We'll
have a party.
Yeah. Because I've even put in I've used your seasonings on several types of organ meat burgers. I've used the savory meat seasoning. Is that one of them? Yeah, I've used the Chop House. I've used the taco seasoning on them. I've used the ranch seasoning on them, and it's always delicious, man.
That reminds me, I'm wondering if Low Carb USA will be down there as scheduled for 2021.
February.
Maybe. Oh no, January 15th through 17th.
Yeah, they usually are in the beginning of the year.
Yeah, well, they were supposed to be in San Diego this past month, but it got canceled. So something we'll have to try to get down there for. And then what's one simple tip for anybody wanting to live the low carb lifestyle that you would recommend?
Always be prepared. Like here's the thing that you can't BS a BSer. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I am a BSer, and the reason why I've never been obese is because I just happen to always be so active my whole life. But I got a little fat kid in me, And when that little fat kid comes out, he says to me, he says, well, just play it by ear.
Yeah.
And when he says, we'll just play it by ear, I deep down inside know that that means that we're just gonna, let's just let the wheels fall off, you know?
Yep.
And so like, don't tell me if you're gonna go out to dinner to Chili's with your friends or whatever, that you're gonna play it by ear. Look at the menu before you get there.
Yep.
You know, that's a big thing. We never go out, but when we do go out to eat, if it's not a Brazilian steakhouse, because it's either going to be like a place here where we get these bowls where they let us order sides of meat, which we ate it twice last week, or a Brazilian steakhouse. But always be prepared for when you're eating out, and more importantly, always be prepared for your days, like typical days. Like you don't have to meal prep if you don't want to, but just understand, like you might think, wow, I'm really killing it at 1 p.m. because you've barely eaten anything and you feel like you're proud of that. But your willpower is a finite resource.
Yep.
And if you haven't eaten anything or you've under-eaten, which is another huge problem for people, because they end up always, it's amazing how the body so quickly says, something's wrong. Say, hey guys, there's probably a possibility that this guy's going to starve us. Let's make him really, really hungry. Let's kick up the ghrelin, you know? And when you do that, I mean, anyone who's listening to this will agree, and they'll say, oh man, I know that feeling's happened. You know, you're too disciplined. And I don't want to say too disciplined because it just means that you might be over restricting. That's a difference from discipline, but you over restrict too much. And all of a sudden at the end of the day, you're just like, pizza cookies, you know, like
and whatever's in front of you is going down. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like, just have an idea of what you're eating and just understand that, like, if you're that type of person who I would rather fast than eat small meals. Like if you're going to make me eat small meals, you might as well give me like Chinese water torture. Like I cannot stand, you know, and I hate it, you know, because part of it is that, you know, like I do respect bodybuilders because they have this discipline to where they can eat like a 500 or 600 calorie meal. You know, I can't do that. Like if I'm eating, like my meals are usually 1,500, you know, 1,200, 1,000, you know? And so like, I'm only eating 2 of them. But yeah, I'm only eating 2 of them, but I'm used to eating that way. So I, you know, play with something that Maura does, you know, play with eating bigger meals. You don't have to eat, especially if you're that person who comes from a bodybuilding background. You may think, oh, let me just do keto, but I'm also going to eat 5 meals a day. You can start that way, but just understand that you're going to get the full real satiety if you have less meals. I mean, 3 meals tops. 2 meals for me has been like my baseline for the most of this time, you know?
Yeah.
That would be it. Just be prepared and be honest with yourself. I think like one of the things that I've been good about the last couple of years is when I do these experiments or when I bring carbs in the summer, I am honest when I say that I enjoy it, you know, because it unlocks like a whole menu that I didn't have before. Like all of a sudden sushi's in play, you know, like, and it's like, you know, if you're gonna do that, which I don't recommend doing that if you're someone who really needs to turn things around. But if you are someone who's like been there for years, you got that flexibility, then just understand that if you ever do eat carbs, you have to bring the fat down. Something's got to give. You can't eat high fat and high carb. So
that's what got you fat in the first place. Is that combination.
That is the, you know, Ted Naiman talks about this, like the macro ratios of rat chow that they use to get them fat is right around 12% protein, 60% carbs, and what is that? 28% fat. Yeah. Or something like that. And you think, wow, that's not even, but think about it. These animals are so hungry because they don't have I don't think they have a pancreas, but you know, they do probably have a similar response. If they didn't, then they wouldn't use them for these studies. There's something about their anatomy that's similar to ours, but like, you know, you're eating low protein, you're eating high carb. You're going to eat more, but if you do eat, like, that's why sushi is I like sushi because, you know, I can have like a big plate of sushi and it might have like 100 carbs in it, but it would literally, the whole plate will have like 18 grams of fat, you know? And for that occasional meal, I always do find it interesting that I I feel full, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm so used to like experiencing that fullness from fat. But I mean, it could happen from other things. But yeah, just be prepared, and that's the most important thing. Be honest with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, we do that all ourselves. Going out to eat, there's this thing called the internet.
Yeah.
You,
Do it
if
on the
you,
way in the
you've
car.
got a cell phone, pull the menu up, plan
Yeah, we do
ahead.
that.
Now, I've been at it long enough. I can usually figure it out without, it's like, all right, what steaks do they have? And everybody has
I'm also
broccoli.
excited because I'm on the way to dinner and we're hungry. You know,
Yeah,
like what are we gonna eat?
exactly. And then preparing, planning ahead for your meals, have them out ahead of time.
Yeah.
Again, especially if you're just starting out, because especially if you're in a family that you're the only one doing it, you're going to eat other people's stuff if you're not properly prepared ahead of time. It makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Now, where do people find you if they want to harass you like I like to harass you every now and then?
Well, they don't got my number like you do.
That's right.
I'm not gonna give that out. They can see me on Instagram, dannyvega.ms. You can email us at hello@fatfueled.family, which is also our URL, fatfueled.family, www.fatfueled.family. Fatfuelfamily.com was taken, so we had to take fatfueled.family. That's
works.
where the podcast is there, the shop is there, coaching. We got some blog articles. I want to be better about blogging, but I'll do that when I have a staff.
Yeah. Trust me, my wife and I understand that completely. And are you allowed to tease anything you've got coming up? You've been teasing on Instagram something, but I don't know if you're allowed to say anything.
I'm terrible. I'm a terrible marketer. I do the thing that I'm really excited about because it's like 38 days away is our rock body retreats.
Okay.
And if anybody's interested, I'm sweetening the deal. You want to learn about this? These are fitness themed retreats. Our first one's coming up in October. You can head over to, it used to be Rock Your Body Retreats, but we changed it to Rock Body Retreats. But the website, the landing page that we made, which is where people can get, not only will they get information on the trip and all that stuff, but they also will get a free document called How to Stay Fat Fueled on the Road, where it gives all of the things we just talked about with the, ordering. And it talks about like products with discount codes and workouts that you could do with your family. I have several workout options. You get that if you go to www.rockyourbodyretreats.com. So that's rockyourbodyretreats.com /Danny. You'll see a video of my buddy Travis. He'll talk to you all about it, and then you'll basically get into our system for updates, and you get your free document.
Cool. We'll have all that.
That's the biggest thing, because we're going to be doing those every quarter, and we're excited about those.
Cool. Well, one of these days when I get time to get away.
Yeah.
And we'll have all that in the show notes for everybody else. So, Danny, I appreciate your time. It's always good to talk to you and good to see you again. It's been at least a year. I think
man,
was the last time.
And for some reason, the Corona has made it like, this last several months have been the longest decade ever.
Yeah, that's for certain. So, well, thanks again. And we'll look forward to talking to you again soon.
All right, buddy. Thanks.